Welcome everyone. This is our part 3 of our demo using the Loft tool. So on this particular one, we're going to work with a closed loft. If you remember in the past 2 exercises, the bottom of the top were planes, or you're able to reach that particular surface. So in this particular case, we're going to work in a loop or a closed shape using Loft. To get a particular shape done, we're going to need 4 different sketches. On the front plane, we're going to have number 1 and number 2, and from the right plane, we're going to have number 3 and number 4. Just keep in mind that we're going to need 4 different sketches. So if for any reason you got 4 shapes and you see 3 sketches, something's wrong. So I just want to make sure that you double check number of sketches with the number of profiles that we have here. Great, so let's get started. I'm going to get started on my front plane. By the way, we're doing a wedding ring. I know it might be a sensitive topic, but it's something fun and a very dynamic shape that we can get out of SolidWorks. So I'm going to start off by creating a reference line. Reference lines are dotted, and these lines are really helpful when you're tracing various elements to find the center, endpoints, or constrain objects to a particular line in this case. So you can have 1 or you can have as many as you want, and you're going to find them here on the center line. Great. So to keep my object equidistant, I'm going to add a dimension here of 3 inches. And then I'm going to go ahead and trace my first shape. So my first shape will be a circle. Like I mentioned, I'm going to use this line as a reference, and I use the endpoint to be the center of my circle. Size 1.4 inches. And that's pretty much it. It's very simple. My first sketch, 3 inches away from the origin, and then 1.4 inches on diameter. I'm going to hit OK, and just double check that you hit OK so you see your sketch as a gray line. Now, like I mentioned before, we're going to need 4 sketches, so I'm going to go ahead and create my second sketch on my right-hand side. So that will be my front plane again. Reference line to keep things equidistant. Make sure your line is horizontal. SolidWorks will give you this relation right here horizontally placed, and then I'm gonna draw, or rather dimension my line as 3 inches. Now I want to have a shape that is very dynamic, so I'm not gonna draw a circle. I'm gonna start changing shapes along the way. You guys are going to see the end result, how dynamic the overall shape gets. So I'm going to use a rectangular shape from the center. I really want to use from the center so I can snap this to the same point as my circle. So these two are aligned. And I'm going to type 2 dimensions, 1.5 here, and also 1.5 on here. So pretty much we got almost the same size. Again, I mentioned that we want variation on it. So that's pretty good. I'm going to hit OK. And if I zoom out and rotate this a little bit, you see now that we have 2 different sketches. And then again, double check that you also have 2 different sketches in here. So that's 1, 2. I'm missing number 3 and number 4. So I'm going to go ahead and start sketching on my right plane. New sketch. Spacebar normal 2. Remember, it's really hard to sketch in perspective. And then center line, same, 3 inches. And on this particular profile, I'm going to use an ellipse, but I'm not going to lock the first axis to my X and Y. I'm going to make sure that it's on purpose skewed. So you're going to get an ellipse diagonally. I'm eyeballing this one a little bit, but I'm not going to go too small or too far out. It's almost about the same size. These are the 2 previous sketches, so I have these 2 as reference. Right, so that's it for my sketch number 3. And I go back to perspective. You see that now we're going to have the same distance between them. So my last sketch will be on my right-hand side on my right plane. So right plane, New sketch, spacebar, normal 2. I'm gonna zoom out, and just as we did on the previous ones, I'm gonna add a reference line. Dimension 3 inches. And this one, I'm gonna use an item that I haven't used before when we're doing lofting. I'm gonna use a spline. Splines are right here. Trying to make kind of a amoeba-like shape or a very organic shape. Trying to keep also the same size. Now, splines are a little bit different. They have control points and you can manipulate them any way you want them to reshape the object. So when you're dealing with splines, manipulating the actual control point is a little hard. So what I like to do always is to bring my handles just like Illustrator and then have more control when I'm manipulating this particular shape. So how we're gonna do that? You're gonna go anywhere on your line, make sure it's closed, right? So shaded blue if you have the shaded contours on. Right click on it. And the tool that we're gonna use is called Display Control Polygon. So that'll give you my handles. And this way will be a lot easier for me to manipulate the shape. Let's say that's the organic profile that I want to have. Very different from the previous 3. And then I'm gonna hit OK. So now I have all the basic elements to start creating my ring. 1, 2, 3, 4. Also make sure that we have 1, 2, 3, 4. If you happen to have 3 sketches and 4 profiles, something's wrong. Most likely, and that happens a lot, you have 2 profiles drawn in one sketch. So you need to delete one or convert entities. But you want to make sure that you have only 1 profile on each one of the sketches. Otherwise, SolidWorks doesn't know which one of the 2 are you referring to. So I'll double check on that. I'm okay. So now I'm going to go under Loft. Same rule applies as the previous Loft parts that we have. I'm going to go in an orderly fashion, either clockwise or counterclockwise, but I'm going to go top, 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 or bottom, 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 or inside, 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 but try not to go too crazy from top to bottom to the outside to the inside, because then you're gonna lose your preview because the part will be self-intersecting. So same as the other ones, you're gonna see our connector. There we go. It's going from top to top to top, and then I'm gonna end right here. So I can totally see my shape, right? I'm trying to get my ring to be closed as a donut because this is a different kind of loft. It's a closed loop loft. And I'm following all the rules, but this is not connected. So there's a little box right at the bottom of the loft option that is called closed loft right here. So all that we need to do is check on it. And there we go. We got a really organic shape and it's a closed loft. So one of the things that we can do, especially with objects that you're still designing and previewing and having tests on it, is you can start moving your control point around and adding more tension or less tension accordingly to what you're doing to the shape. We can totally move our control points here of our connectors as long as you don't overdo it. So I'm going too extreme from here to here. That means that we got a self-intersecting part and then SolidWorks will just fail. So I just want to go back and push it, but I know up to certain limitation. There we go. That's a pretty nice shape for my ring. So I'm gonna hit OK. Great. So basic elements to understand when you're lofting is trying to figure out how this shape looks like if you cut it in sections. And that's the shape that you need to draw on these particular planes. So now that we have our ring, and if you go ahead and change the scale, this could also be a beautiful building in Beijing, right? Right. So part one, I got the overall shape of my ring. So I'm gonna move forward and I'm gonna work on the very special part of the ring, especially for the ladies, right? That will be our diamond. So in order to create our diamond, I'm going to select any of these corners because I cannot sketch freely on a curved surface. So it will be a lot easier for me if I have a flat surface. So I'm gonna go normal to my top, make a new sketch, and then I'm gonna choose this side as the place where my diamond will go. So I'm gonna grab a rectangular shape from the top. And if I zoom in, this is the amount of the ring that I'm gonna be shaving off. Okay, we just need to do a little bit of it. Hit OK. There we go. Rotate your model. And obviously, we're gonna create an extrude cut. If I use blind, that's direction 1, I'm gonna be cutting only half of the overall body. I'm trying to keep my object always aligned with the origin just for modeling purposes. It's gonna make your life a lot easier. So what I need to do here is change this to cut both sides. And in that particular case, mid-plane is the option to go with. So now whatever I do here is gonna also cut the same distance on the top. I'm gonna go ahead and click OK. And this is what I wanted to have. A little flat surface so I can sketch the shape of my diamond. So as any object, there are many, many ways of creating the same form or shape, but I'm just gonna go with one that I know that it works really well and is really simple. So I'm just gonna go ahead and sketch on your flat plane. SolidWorks will measure this around and it's gonna put the origin of the centroid of this area right here. So that's really helpful because I know where I need to put my shape that is going to be centered accordingly to that organic cut that I have. So in order to get my diamond, I'm gonna use a polygon. I'm gonna say 6-sided, but that's up to you. If you want a really nice diamond, you can use 8, 10, 12, as many sides as you want. And once you have that, you're gonna be that shape is placed on that flat surface. So my next step is to give it a mask. So I'm gonna use extrusion. I'm gonna use KeyShot later to render these two items. So I'm gonna make sure that I do not merge results. I want this part separated from the main body so I can assign two different shaders, right? So that's my diamond, and probably my wife will be really disappointed because that's way too small. So one of the things that I want to do here to change the size and make it look more like a diamond, I'm gonna turn on this option called draft angle. So I'm gonna turn draft on, and if I increase the degrees, you see that the other face of the polygon is getting smaller, and obviously that's not what we want. So I'm gonna click on this option called draft outwards. I'm gonna take a look at my wallet, and the more degrees you have, obviously the more expensive or nicer your diamond's going to be. So I'm just gonna say 38 degrees, do not merge results, double check on that and hit OK. So now I have the first half of my diamond. So to complete the diamond part, I'm going to sketch again on this flat surface. And I'm going to need exactly the same shape. And instead of going back and tracing a new polygon, what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert entities or copy this outline. That's really good because if I make any changes on here, there's a relationship between the two and both will change at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and convert entities. There we go. You're going to see that all the lines are black, meaning this sketch comes from somewhere else or a relation on the previous sketch, and that was the original one. And then to complete my diamond, I'm going to extrude my part. This one's going to be a little bit longer. Again, we're having fun with this and making it look more realistic later on in KeyShot. And then, very important, you turn off merge results. Otherwise, whatever is linked is going to get merged back again or combined into one body. So I want to make sure that merge results is off. Same as before, draft angle. Does a little sharp. You got to be careful about that. I'm going to draw this back a tiny bit. That looks good to me. Then I'm going to hit OK. So at the end, we are going to end up with 3 different parts. And obviously, diamond is only one part. So my final step is how to combine these 2 into one single part. So my last step, this particular object, will be to go under Insert Features Combine and use my Add type. So I'm going to add this side to this side. Hit OK. And now check your solid bodies tab, and we should have 2 solid bodies. One is the main body of the ring using a closed loft, and the second one, my combine, made out of 2 extrusions, and that's my diamond. So I'm really happy about it. This could be a little bit larger, but for the sake of the exercise, is good. So I'm going to switch back now to KeyShot. So before I do that, if you guys remember how to take this into KeyShot, we need to go and save your part on this under File, Save As. The one that I use that I never have issues with is a step file. There's 2 kinds. I usually use the second one, AP214, and I'm going to save it right now, but you know how to save it now. So have your SolidWorks and then have your step file. And this will end our demo on how to use closed sweeps. In this case, we created a ring. Thank you.